Hi everyone, we're working on app number 4 today, and this app is similar in many ways to app number 2, the guessing the number game, in that it's also a guessing game, but this time we're actually using media in the form of images. Um, we have used some of the other concepts that you are or should be familiar with right now, such as labels, response labels here, we have a text field here, and we have a button. Now, one of the things you should be able to notice from this view here is that the text field, we have this um, response where we have king written in mixed case. So we have uppercase letters and lowercase letters. And the great thing about this app is providing that you actually spell uh, the answer correctly, it doesn't really matter what case you actually use. And I'll show you how that works shortly. And really, the way this app works is in the background, it will pick out a random card, or it will generate a random card from a kind of assume that it's a deck of cards. Essentially, it's only 4 cards. It's not a full deck, but again, just to show the concept, I've just put in a few cards for you, and it will match your answer, the answer that you actually put in here into this text field, with the answer that it has generated through the code. And if the answer is correct, then you will actually get a correct response. Otherwise, it will say it's incorrect. Now, as with the other apps, we have code here. Now, this is the code for the project, but rather than just copying and pasting this in, which really is not going to serve any purpose, any real purpose. I am actually going to be typing this in. You can actually use this as a reference, but I strongly encourage you to be typing the code in. And the reason why is, um, it's the same thing, a similar argument that's being made with people who actually write. Okay, writing using a pen or a pencil versus typing. If you're writing, you're more likely to be retaining that information that you actually write versus typing, which is a faster process. Okay, so I'm going to be typing this code in, but I'll be using this as a template. And some of the concepts that we're going to be using in here are essentially storyboard objects. We're going to be using arrays. We're going to be using a conditional statement. These are things that you've already been introduced to in the previous apps. String interpolation as well, to um, add values to a string, which is the label here. And a new thing here, you've been introduced to some functions in the previous app, some array functions like count, which is a special function. Append is a special function, and we also have a random element function as well, which will pick out a random element from the array for us. So we're going to bring all of these concepts together and develop this app. The first thing we need to do is to develop our interface, and I'm just going to go through this quickly. So we have a label here at the top. Then we have an image view. This is going to hold our image, okay, and we're going to interact with this programmatically through our code. We have a label here, which is essentially going to be the response label. Now, this label is going to hold feedback, okay, whether the answer is correct or incorrect, and it's going to tell us. And then we have a text field here as well, where the user types in the answer, and you can see here that I have some placeholder text, and then we have a check button. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add some images that we can actually use and reference within our project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show my kind of project navigator here. Now, as you can see here, I'm using Export 12. Those of you that are using 11, the buttons are here at the right-hand side. And we're going to use and utilize this assets folder, this assets.xc assets. This holds all of the assets for our project, things like the app icon. We can also do many of the things here, like create color palettes, etc. But right now, what we're going to do is add some images. Now, I'm using a deck of cards. You can use any other images you would like, and I encourage you to use other images so you can actually adapt the code. So you can see here that I have some images here, just 4 images: ace, jack, king, and queen. And this is how I'm naming these, and I'm just going to drop them in here. As you can see here, I'm dropping them in after clicking on the assets folder. If I try to drop them in at the top here, on top of the folder, it won't add it to the correct folder, and it will just add it to the main project, the file listing in the project, and that's not what we want. Okay, we want to make sure that everything is organized. So the idea here is, first of all, click on the assets folder, then drop it into this area here. So I'm just going to drop it in here, and you can see here that all of the images have been added to the project. So I'm going to my main storyboard here, and I'm just going to hide this sidebar just to give myself some space. Okay, now the first thing we want to do as far as the code is concerned is to connect these different elements up, because we will need to interact with these programmatically. So I'm just going to put this window here, back to my browser here and the code here. You can see here that I've got three outlets set up. One is the response label, one is the answer text field, and one is the card view. Okay, so the response label refers to the actual label here, which is this one here. This is a response label. This is the card view. Okay, and then this final one is the answer text field, which is this element here. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly create these, and in order to create these connections, it's quite a simple process, but you need to pay attention to what you are doing. You don't want to be connecting the wrong thing up to your code. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just click on this, single click on the object I want to connect, hold down my control key, and and then drag to my code, and I'm just going to drop it in just underneath the class file, underneath the class file definition. Don't add it up here or down here somewhere. We want to keep our code organized, so I'm just going to drop it in here. And it says here that it's giving me some options. So I want to create an outlet, and this is going to be called card view. Okay, this is going to be card view, and I'm going to leave all of the options, other options untouched. Click on connect, and it will create my first outlet. This one here, I think we call this answer text field. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, single click, remember, and then control drag from the center of this text field. You can see here, I don't want to, inadvertently connect my view up. Like, this is the view here. I don't want to do that. I want to click on the text field from the center of the text field, and I'm just going to drop it just underneath the existing. I don't want to drop it on top or anything, just underneath the existing card view that I've created. Okay, and this one here is called answer. I believe it's the answer text field, and let me just see if that's correct here. It's capital F there. Okay, so just make sure that's consistent here. Answer text field. Okay, click on connect, and that's done as well. The final one is the response label. Okay, so what we're going to do is this one here. This is the response label. Again, click and control drag. Okay, and then response label. Okay, so my three connections are all established now, my outlets, and I can actually interact with these within our code. The next thing I want to do is I want to create my array. Okay, so my array is called cards. Okay, and this is going to contain 4 string values, which are essentially the names of the cards, and they really need to be the same name as the images that you've added. Okay, so you can see here that this is called ace, king, queen, jack, and if I go back here and show you, it is ace, jack, king, queen, right? It's the same, and it's spelt the same, just so there's no confusion when it comes to coding this later on. Okay, and just go back here. Okay, so I'm going to say let cards equals, and then it's ace, king, queen. Obviously, you're going to be doing this with your own set of images rather than a card deck. Okay, okay, that's done. See what's next. Okay, so here this is the thing, and the next thing we have here is the check answer button, which is essentially it's a function. Okay, this is a function that we're creating, which is essentially linked up to the button. So when you click on the button, it will do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button, and I'm going to click on this and connect this here, and change this connection to action. I'm going to call this check answer. Okay, so this is the check answer. Leave all of the other options as default. Okay, so here it is. Let's move that away. Okay, so this is going to contain the logic of our code. Okay, the logic of our code. So if you go back to the app here, the first thing here is this part of the code here. Let's just see what this does. So it says here, this returns a random item from the array We are using a guard statement to check if the array has any items in it. Remember that an array can return an optional value as it may be empty. Therefore, we need to check to see if it has a value. So one of the things that you need to remember when you're using random element here is that the array may not have any items inside here, right? It may not have any items by default. And if you are using a random element, if you're trying to call this random element function, and if there's no items inside here, it will crash. So we use this special guard statement to check to see if it has a value inside. If it doesn't, it's simply going to give you a print message to say that there's no value inside here. So it won't actually crash the app. Whereas if you don't use this, a guard statement to actually check, then it will crash the app. Okay, so we want to try to do things as safe as possible. And as you know, Swift is a safe language. Okay, and this is one option of safety, one type of safety, and that is we can actually safely check to see if an element has a value. In this case, if an array has a value, and if it doesn't, then we can just gracefully say incorrect. Okay, or we can type in any message here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say God let correct answer, and then this is going to be equal to the cards dot random element. Okay, it's going to be, and then what we're going to do is type in the else here. Okay. So this is the start of our guard statement. So it's what we're saying here is if this card array does not have any elements inside here when I call this random element, then we're just going to print and maybe what we can do. I've got here incorrect, but maybe we can just kind of say no elements found. It doesn't really matter what you type in here. This is essentially for you as a developer. This message here. If not, then we return the value. Okay, so you can see that this is the guard statement, which is essentially just going to generate a random element from that array in the background. The next thing we want to do is we want to set the image. So this image here, we want to set the image we want to set this image view with the correct image, right? So remember, we actually named these images in accordance and then aligned them with the actual names of our array. Right? So these array elements are all named the same way as our images. Okay, so the ace is ace, king is king, queen is queen, and jack is jack. And what this will do is this will pick out a random element from this array here. So let's just say it picks out ace. Then what we need to do is load the ace image inside this image view. And in order to do that, all we do is we say card view dot, you can see here, image is equal to, and then we use this format here. So it's a UI image, and then it's going to be a bracket here, and it's named. And rather than giving it an actual name, what we're going to say is it's going to be named the correct answer, because this holds the correct answer from the array. Okay, so correct, fix that here, there. We're going to say correct answer. What will happen is it will load up the image. So it will first of all pick out a random element from the array. Okay, one of these here. Once it's picked out the element, it's going to load the image, the correct image, from our assets folder in accordance with whatever name it's actually picked up from the array. Okay, so it's quite a straightforward process here. And the next thing we need to do is we need a conditional check. Okay, so what this will do is you can see here, it says here, this conditional statement checks to see if the input answer is the same as the correct answer. So if the answer that's input by the user is the same as the correct answer, meaning that the answer that's being generated randomly from the array, if they are correct, then the response label will say correct, well done. Otherwise, it's going to say incorrect, the correct card is the correct answer. And it will basically, it's using string interpolation here to tell you that the correct answer, what the correct answer is. Okay, now one thing that we're using here is we're using a special function here called lowercased. And what that will do is it will take the answer that the users typed in and it will convert it to lowercase, right? And then it will check that lowercase text value with this value here, which is already lowercase, and then if it's correct, it will basically say correct, otherwise it will say incorrect. The reason why we're doing this is just to show you that a user may type in things differently, right, into a text field. Some people may use a different case, for example. Some people may use they may have a space at the beginning or something. And this is one function that we can actually use to to fix any issues with case sensitivity. Okay, so in the background, it's going to re convert it to a lowercase, and then check that with the answers which are potentially already in lowercase. If we didn't do this, then if somebody typed in ace with a capital A, and then you can see here this ace is lowercase a, then it will say that this answer is incorrect, and obviously that is not the case, right? Because it's doing a literal match against the values in the array. Okay, so this is why we're actually using this special function to convert the answer to lowercase. So what we're going to do is we're going to start our if statement here. So we're going to say if answer text field, because that is what we're referring to, dot text, right? And then we say dot lowercase, right? So you can see here is equal to. So if the answer that has been input by the user is equal to the correct answer, okay? So you can see here the correct answer, put a bracket here. Then what we will do is we need to output a message here. So we've called this response label. So we say here response label, response label dot text equals, and we need to output a message here. And now the message I've output here, it says correct, well done. So we say here correct, and well done. Okay, something like that. And you can see here it's a little bit different here, and that's fine. Okay, so it's a message that you type in. You can even put emojis in here if you want to, right? I'm not going to do that. And as you can see, I'm not even focusing on making this pretty. If you really want to make it pretty, you can do so. My role right here, right now, my focus is ensuring that you actually understand the concepts. We actually have an error here. Now, the reason why this is an error is so with a lowercase. Okay, let's just see here what the issue is here. Okay, let's just continue with this code here. So we say here if the else, on this else statement here, what we're going to do is we're going to say response label.text. We're going to say that the answer is incorrect, obviously, and then we'll tell the user what the correct answer is. Okay, so we'll say incorrect. So we say response label dot text equals incorrect. Okay, the correct answer is, and then we use string interpolation to actually tell the user what the correct answer was. Okay, here it is. Okay, and I think this is a double equals to, because what we're doing is we're not assigning a value to this. Well, it's essentially equality, right? So we're checking it using the double equals sign here to say if the answer is if the value that the user's entered, and then convert that to lowercase. If it's equal to, remember the double equal sign is essentially equal to the correct answer, then we actually run this bit of code. Otherwise, we run this bit of code. Okay, so that essentially should allow us to run the app. You can see here that if I want to see and just kind of a preview of what the image looks like, if I just click on this UIImageView here, go to my attributes inspector, right at the top, I can actually access a list of all of the images that I've uploaded, and you can see here that's what it actually looks like. Okay, here you can see here. Now you can see here that there's a little bit of a border around the image The reason why there's a little bit of this kind of gray border was that I actually gave this UI image view a default background color just to show you that this was an image view. So what I'm going to do is just remove this color from this here. Okay, so I'm going to remove this color, and now it doesn't have a background color. So if I actually show you this, see what the image looks like, it actually looks a lot better. We don't actually have a gray background. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Obviously, we don't want to start off with an image inside here, so I'm going to delete that, press enter. Okay, just a default image view here. And what I'm going to do now is just to run this app. Okay, so it's just going to run, making sure that you actually have selected iPhone 11 as the simulator here. Okay, so it's loading up. Okay, so it's not, as you can see here, it's not perfect. Okay, it's not perfect because it doesn't, typically you would have some kind of a placeholder image here to, suggest to the user that they need to pick out a certain card. So assume that nothing's been selected right now. So I'm just going to put in the word king here, right, and click on check, and it says here that is correct. Now, one of the things that you will notice as I'm actually testing this app, it's going to repeat the answers quite frequently because there's not many answers to actually select from here. Okay, if I type in ace here like this, you can see here is correct. If I type in queen, this here, okay, so you're saying that the incorrect answer is jack. So again, we can check. Okay, so remember that at this point, the answer has nothing has been generated. Everything is only the actual generating of the random element. All of these things only happen when I actually within the actual check answer button. So they will all happen once I actually click on the button, right? So it's not really the ideal way. If I was to actually develop something like this to publish, it wouldn't be like this. But I think just to highlight these concepts, it's sufficient. Okay, so you can see here, if I just type in ace here. So at this moment in time, nothing is being generated. But as soon as I click on this, then the answers are going to be generated. It's going to pick out a random element, and then it's going to check to see what I have in here. And as you can see here, it was correct. Now, there's many things that you can actually do with this. You can import some kind of a scoring system if you need to, just to extend this app. I don't have any extension exercises listed for you here, but maybe one of the things that I will actually include in this um, description here is for you guys to extend this app by adding some kind of a scoring system, and then maybe just kind of changing the visual design a little bit just to make it more usable. Please refer to this table here as well. It actually goes through some of the concepts that I've actually used here, including the now this actually using a different type of randomization here, but it includes things like arrays and how I've actually used arrays with this app. Okay, so that is our fourth app, and you'll be focusing on that this week in your classes, and I look forward to see what you can actually produce and some of the creative design that you can actually apply to this app.